So if you're ready to get started, let's dive in. It all begins with the big picture, where we're going to cover an overview of the ask method and what advantages it gives you at a strategic level, beginning with the first strategic advantage, the ability to deeply understand what your market wants to buy. The ask method helps you give people what they want before they even know what they want themselves. It helps you uncover people's deepest desires and unspoken pain. It helps you enter the conversation going on in your prospect's mind and discover and use the exact language that they are using themselves. Which takes us to the second big advantage of the ask method, which is it helps you eliminate guesswork in your business. It helps you create each new product that's virtually guaranteed to be a home run. It helps you know what to say to overcome hidden objections in your market. It helps you with slam dunk market selection. Never again will you wonder if the market that you're selecting is worth pursuing or not. The ask method is a proven step-by-step roadmap to help launch new products with minimal financial risk and to gain ultimate clarity and confidence in your business. The next big advantage that the ask method provides is it helps you build a massive list and generate leads online. You see, segmentation funnels and quizzes are the fastest and most reliable way to generate leads and build a massive email list inexpensively. Generate leads on Facebook and Google at a fraction of the cost. And quizzes can go viral and are extremely shareable in virtually every market online. Which takes us to the next big advantage. The ask method helps you create raving fans and customers. People love it when you start by asking about their situation before you begin selling them anything. The ask method helps communicate to people as individuals rather than in a one-size-fits-all way. The ask method helps you create instant trust and authority even if nobody knows who you are. The only questions that your customers will ask you is what else do you have to sell, because they will want everything that you offer. Now, the next big advantage of the ask method is it helps you generate recurring revenue. Generate predictable, consistent monthly revenue every single month with an ask method segmentation funnel. 24/7 leads and customers. Segmentation funnels are extremely cold traffic friendly on Facebook, Google AdWords ads, on blogs, and any type of traffic source online. With the ask method, it helps you avoid the launch cash flow roller coaster, the ups and downs that launches can provide, where one month you're making a ton of money and the next month there's no cash coming in. With a segmentation funnel running on cold traffic, you have 24/7 leads and customers entering into your business every single day. And at the same time, this helps you build a massively valuable asset once that produces leads and revenue for years. It's the difference between building an ATM versus robbing a bank. A launch is exciting because you get a huge amount of cash all in one shot, but it truly is like robbing a bank. To have that cash infusion again, you need to have another launch. Versus the ask method and segmentation funnels helps you supplement that launch income by building an ATM, a segmentation funnel that gives you leads and customers every single day. The next big advantage is the ask method helps you massively scale your business. You see, individual ask method quizzes and assessments generate as much as 5,000 to 25,000 email subscribers per day. And I've done this in multiple markets. All you need is just one segmentation funnel to massively scale your business. And last but not least, the ask method helps insulate and protect your asset. What I mean by that is you can use funnel stacking to protect your business, where you have multiple funnels that create an impenetrable wall that your competitors can't surmount. You create multiple entry points into your business for your customers. You connect each segmentation funnel to the next, like train cars on the train, and this is a strategy that I talk about in the Ask Method Masterclass. With the Ask Method, when people enter one funnel, they can move on to the next one and the next one. And what you're doing here is you're building a moat around your business that makes it nearly impossible for your competitors to knock off what it is you're doing and copy your results. This takes us to the next step in the Ask Method blueprint, the discovery process, where you find out what it is that people want. And it all starts with your discovery starting point. And there are 4 main starting points. The first starting point is if you are exploring a new market. The Ask Method helps you find the best new market to pursue, determine if that market you have in mind is worth pursuing, to eliminate risk and proceed in that market with confidence. Second, the Ask Method helps you if you have an existing market and you're trying to identify the top challenges in your existing market so you can better serve your audience, to find the underserved or ignored segments of your market, and to determine the soft underbelly of your market. That is, where's the opportunity that your competitors are missing that you can take advantage of? At the same time, the ask method can help you if you're looking to launch a new product. For example, it helps you identify the best new product to pursue, to determine if the new product that you have in mind is in fact worth pursuing, and to calculate the success probability of that product before investing months in that new product. Last but not least, the ask method helps you if you have an existing product that you're looking to improve or get feedback on, with something we call the Do You Hate Me survey, where you can determine why people might not be buying your existing product. You can also use the ask method to identify what might be missing in your existing product. And last but not least, you can capitalize on overlooked profit opportunities that are sitting right there in your business. Low-hanging fruit that most people don't even realize exists. The ask method can help you uncover those opportunities. Next up, the ask method in the discovery process begins with your deep dive survey. The first decision point when you run a deep dive survey is whether to use the classic or lean deep dive survey. And in the Ask Method Masterclass, we help determine which one is right for you. The deep dive survey is designed to help determine who your hyper-responsives are, identify what market segments you should focus on, and which ones you should ignore. There are 5 survey killers, big mistakes that people tend to make when they're running discovery surveys or deep dive surveys in their market, and you'll discover how to avoid making those common mistakes in the Ask Method Masterclass. The deep dive survey helps you uncover natural language patterns that are occurring in your market so you can enter the conversation going on in your prospect's mind. Next up, the deep dive survey helps identify your buckets, the 3 to 5 most important groups of people in your market that you want to be focusing on. And last but not least, if you have no list, no problem. You'll discover how to run your survey without a list or a website. Next up, the discovery process helps you identify key market insights inside your market. The deep dive survey sandwich will show you how to structure your questions in your survey. Something called your SMIQ will help you identify what your zone of specificity is. There are 4 major question types with the deep dive survey, and it's important to know what to ask and what not to ask. And in terms of phrasing your questions, there are 3 words that you should actually never use when running a survey to your market. You can use the deep dive survey to dimensionalize your perfect prospect, your customer avatar, by running demographic and psychographic analysis in a very specific way. The discovery process also helps you discover product demand. You'll determine what new products to launch next with something that we call the product demand ladder. You'll also be able to use the deep dive decision tree to prioritize new products based on data versus guessing or gut feel on which one you should launch next. You can also use the discovery process for product format analysis, that is, to determine the optimal new product format that you should use. Next up is product gap analysis to understand what might be missing from an existing product. And last but not least is what we call the red flag watch, to identify predictive red flags that indicate a product might fail before you actually launch that product. Next up is what we call the follow-up phone interview process, and this follows the deep dive survey process in the discovery phase. You'll discover how to ask people and get an enthusiastic yes, how to overcome nerves if you're nervous, shy, or if you're introverted, like I am. You'll discover the 3-step preparation process that you want to follow when it comes to running a phone interview. There's certain things that you want to do to connect with the other person on the phone, and there's something that we call the 5 why framework for questioning. There's a follow-up and finishing process to help you extract the gold, and a 4-part call debrief that you want to conduct after you've run a phone interview. Next up is your segmentation funnel, and this is where you finally give people what they want. So the discovery phase is all about finding out what people want. Here's where you actually give people what they want and where you begin selling. Your segmentation funnel begins by determining how to bucket your market. That is, how to break down the different groups of people that exist in your market. And there are a few decisions that you have. Are you going to use pure versus perceived customization? And there are 4 different ways to bucket. And those are based on journey, based on challenge, based on situation, or a hybrid of the prior 3 ways. Next up is the decision to use either lean or classic bucketing, and there's a difference between the 2. It really depends on where you are in your business. Next up is what we call the confirmation deep dive survey. After you've identified what you think are the most important buckets to focus on in your market, you can run something called a confirmation deep dive survey to go back and validate and verify that you have the right buckets. So as you can see, every step along the way in the ask method, there's verification and validation, so you can move forward with clarity and confidence every step of the way in the process. Next up is something that we call the 80% rule, which represents how much of your market you actually want to try to capture into these buckets. You're never going to capture 100%. 80% is the general rule of thumb. Next up is using what we call the 4 psychological triggers. And the psychological triggers are, number 1, micro commitments. This is where you're using the power of small, non-threatening steps, the psychology of Kaizen, to fly under the fight or flight radar and actually increase your conversions online. Next up is the power of self-discovery, where you're giving your prospects something that they discover about themselves. Remember, everybody's favorite subject is me, myself, and I, and you're taking advantage of that powerful psychological trigger right here. Next up is the psychological force of curiosity, and last but not least is desire. When you combine these 4 psychological forces all together, you can create a brain cocktail in people's minds that not only creates a ton of buying momentum and a ton of demand for what it is that you're selling, but also makes people fall in love with you and your business. Next up in your segmentation funnel is something that we call your welcome page. This is actually the first page in your funnel. Here's where you deliver your big promise, while you tell people why they should answer your questions, where you introduce something called the universal pattern, where there's no one-size-fits-all solution. This is one of the hallmarks of the Ask method and why it's so powerful. It's a hook that you can use no matter what market you're in, simply by following the same structure. Next up is your segmentation questions. Following your welcome page, you'll drive people to a series of questions. And the questions you want to be asking yourself when you're identifying these questions are you building curiosity? Are you asking good questions to demonstrate your expertise? Are you using the answers to put people into different buckets? Are you following primary versus secondary segmentation? And finally, your lead capture page, the third key piece in your segmentation funnel. This is where you're asking people to actually enter their email address and reach the next step in your funnel. Here you can create a vodka Red Bull cocktail in your prospect's brain at the time of opt-in, where they just have a ton of demand and desire to take that next step in your funnel. This is where you promise the prescription using something that we call the XYZ framework. This is where you also introduce your ethical bribe, and there's certain do's and don'ts that you want to follow at this step that are important. Then, following your lead capture page, after someone has opted into your website, next are your outcome pages. Your outcome pages are where you're transitioning from explaining results to actually selling your product. You're using the diagnose and prescribe framework. Up until this point, you focused on diagnosing a person's situation. Here's where you make your prescription, and your prescription leads into the product that you're selling. The way you do that is going from on-ramp to your move forward step. Now, your move forward step might be selling your product. It might also be registering for a webinar or whatever the next step is in your particular funnel. Here is where you want to pull compelling copy from your deep dive survey, where you want to customize the offer and messaging based on the answer or results that someone has after they've answered your questions. There are 3 important things that you want to customize, and that's the frame, testimonials, and benefits, bullets, and bonuses on this particular page. Next up is what we call advanced segmentation, where you can layer certain advanced strategies on top of all the core implementation when you build your segmentation funnel. The first type of advanced segmentation that I want to introduce here are quizzes and assessments. You can use quizzes and assessments to introduce what we call the Band-Aid solution. There's something that you want to use called the domino effect. There are 3 quiz frameworks that you can use when building a quiz or an assessment to identify what bucket someone might fall into and then diagnose and prescribe the right solution. Those are score, type, and killer. And these are 3 frameworks that we cover in detail inside the Ask Method Masterclass. You'll discover 4 big mistakes and how to avoid them when it comes to setting up your quiz. And if you're wondering, there are tons of examples inside the Ask Method Masterclass from B2C to B2B. In addition to quizzes and assessments, there are more advanced segmentation strategies that you can use in your funnel. Things like branching and skipping logic, multi-question outcome mapping, and my favorite, pixel segmentation, where you're actually pixeling people every step along the way on your segmentation funnel so that you can remarket to them, so that you can target them better on Facebook, so that you can build lookalike audiences and custom audiences based on the different groups of people and how they answer your questions in different ways. And if you're like me and you love to see examples of all these strategies at work, you are gonna love the Ask Method Masterclass, because inside the Masterclass, there are literally dozens of examples of successful real-life segmentation funnels, welcome pages, lead capture pages, outcome pages, quizzes, and assessments included in the Masterclass, what we call Swipe Vault, where you can get access to real-time examples for each of these different components. Next up is traffic and optimization, where you launch, grow, and scale your business. And we begin with traffic. With traffic, you need the right mindset and strategy, and there are a few important concepts that you need to be aware of, like the traffic archery target when it comes to scaling, something that we call ROAS, or return on ad spend, and certain percentages that you want to be aiming for along the way. something we call I versus E when it comes to your mindset. Next up is your approach and rollout with traffic. What's the traffic spectrum that you're going to be going after? What's your optimal rollout plan? What about hidden traffic traps that you need to watch out for? And when it comes to conversion, it's important that you're compliant, meaning that you have key elements on all your pages that allow you and enable you to run traffic on big networks like Facebook and Google. Next up are your sources of traffic, and the Ask Method works on dozens of sources online, beginning with Facebook, including sidebar ads, newsfeed ads, Facebook Live, and more. And Google, and when we talk about Google, we're talking about the Google Display Network, Google Search. Other advertising platforms include native platforms like Taboola and Outbrain, not to mention email traffic, SEO, social media, JV and affiliate traffic, blog traffic and guest posts, and much, much more. Next, when it comes to launching, growing, and scaling your business, we need to focus on optimization. Optimization begins with the right mindset and strategy. You want to have a good split testing framework. You want to know what analytics to pay attention to. You want to know what conversion benchmarks to be aiming for, like click-through rate, conversion rate, opt-in rate, completion rate, and much, much more. And the best part, because I've invested the last decade of my life, I have 10 plus years of split test results. So I know exactly what benchmarks you want to be aiming for every step along the way. It's so much easier when you know what you're aiming for rather than trying to guess what your opt-in rate should be, how many people should start taking your quiz, how many people should be completing your quiz, and much, much more. Next up, when it comes to optimization, you need to know how to prioritize what you optimize. For example, on your welcome page, what elements really move the needle? Where should you focus? Where should you ignore? When it comes to optimizing your questions, there are certain things that you can do, like for example, adding images can actually increase your conversion when you do it in a certain way. And then when it comes to your lead capture page, you want to structure that page in a very specific way. What elements do you want to have? What language do you want to use? This is all really important when it comes to optimizing the conversion on each of these pages. Now, a moment ago, I mentioned that I've invested the last 10 years of my life implementing the Ask Method in market after market. When you enroll in the Ask Method Masterclass, you get access to my 10 years worth of split test results, as well as specific conversion metrics that you want to be aiming for each step in your segmentation funnel. Next up, when we talk about launching, growing, and scaling your business, is the third piece of the puzzle. We've talked about traffic, optimization, and now let's talk about scaling. When it comes to scaling, again, you want to have the right mindset and strategy. And I like to talk about telescope, periscope, and microscope and how you spend your time. There are 5 big ways to scale your funnel and your business online. And we spend time talking about each of those ways and how you can decide which one is right for you in your business. You'll discover things like funnel stacking, market expansion, traffic expansion, the 3R system, and much, much more.